The message popped up on her phone just as she was about to seal the most significant deal of her career. The screen lit up with words that made her blood run cold. "We regret to inform you that your position has been terminated, effective immediately." Her hands trembled as she read the message again, certain she must be misunderstanding. This couldn't be happening, not now, not when she'd spent the last 6 months pouring every ounce of herself into this project. Across the sleek mahogany table sat 3 executives from one of the largest tech conglomerates in the world. They were waiting for her response, their faces expectant, notebooks open, pens poised. She had rehearsed this moment countless times, how she would confidently close the deal, secure the partnership that would revolutionize her company's future. But none of those rehearsals had prepared her for this. Her heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the hum of conversation in the conference room. She glanced around at the team seated beside her, her colleagues who trusted her leadership, who believed in her vision. How could she tell them? How could she explain what had just happened without losing face entirely? For a split second, panic threatened to overtake her, but then something else surfaced, a flicker of defiance. No, she wouldn't let this stop her. Not here. Not today. She forced herself to breathe deeply, straightening her posture and smoothing her blazer. The room seemed to hold its collective breath as she composed herself. With deliberate calm, she turned back to the executives across the table and said, "Let's finish what we started." Her voice didn't waver. If anything, it carried more authority than before. It wasn't until hours later, after shaking hands on the finalized agreement, that reality truly hit her. As the others filed out of the room, congratulating each other and celebrating their success, she stood alone, staring at the contract she'd worked so hard to sign, a document bearing the name of a company that no longer employed her. That night, sleep eluded her. Every time she closed her eyes, the weight of everything came crashing down. What was she supposed to do now? She replayed the events of the day in her mind like a broken record, searching for answers. Had she done something wrong? Was there some mistake? The text hadn't offered any explanation, only cold finality. And yet, despite the anger and confusion swirling inside her, another thought began to take shape, a tiny spark of possibility. What if this wasn't the end? What if it was an opportunity disguised as disaster? After all, hadn't she been the driving force behind the deal? Hadn't she built the relationships, crafted the strategy, and brought everyone together? Without her, none of it would have happened. That realization ignited something deep within her, a sense of ownership, of empowerment. If they didn't want her, fine. She'd prove to them, and to herself, that she didn't need them. By morning, exhaustion had given way to determination. She brewed a strong cup of coffee, opened her laptop, and began drafting a business plan. At first, it felt surreal, almost laughable. Starting her own company? Could she really pull it off? Doubts crept in, whispering that she was being reckless, that she should focus on finding another job instead. But then she remembered the look on the executives' faces when she sealed the deal yesterday, the respect, the admiration. They hadn't cared about her title or her employer. All they cared about was the value she delivered. And that gave her the courage to keep going. Over the next few days, she threw herself into research, networking, and planning. She reached out to mentors, former clients, and industry contacts, explaining her situation and pitching her vision. To her surprise, many people rallied behind her. Some offered advice, others promised potential partnerships, and a few even expressed interest in investing. Their support buoyed her spirits, reminding her that she wasn't alone. Still, there were moments of doubt, dark nights when fear whispered that she was biting off more than she could chew. But each time she pushed through, fueled by a quiet but unshakable belief in herself. One afternoon, while reviewing the terms of the deal she'd negotiated, an idea struck her. Why not approach the client directly? After all, she knew their needs better than anyone. She understood their goals, their challenges, their aspirations. Who better to continue serving them than the person who had already proven she could deliver results? Her pulse quickened as she drafted an email, carefully choosing her words. She framed it not as a pitch, but as an invitation, to explore how they could work together under new terms, with her leading the charge as an independent entity. Hitting send felt like stepping off a cliff. There was no turning back now. She braced herself for rejection, for laughter, for silence. But to her astonishment, the response came quickly, and it was positive. The client agreed to meet with her, intrigued by her boldness and impressed by her track record. As she prepared for the meeting, she realized something profound. This wasn't just about salvaging her career. It was about reclaiming her power, her identity, her purpose. For years, she defined herself by her role, by the titles printed on her business cards. Now, she was building something entirely her own. The meeting went better than she could have hoped. The client listened intently as she outlined her vision, nodding along as she spoke. When she finished, there was a long pause before one of the executives leaned forward and said, "You've always been the one driving this relationship. Why should that change?" Those words sent a shiver down her spine. They weren't just validating her skills, they were affirming her worth. By the end of the conversation, they had agreed to move forward, restructuring the partnership to align with her new venture. But the journey was far from over. Securing the client's trust was only the beginning. Now, she faced the monumental task of building her company from scratch. She needed a team, resources, funding, all the pieces that had once been provided to her effortlessly. The enormity of it all sometimes threatened to overwhelm her, but she refused to let fear dictate her path. Instead, she tackled each challenge head-on, learning as she went. She hired freelancers to handle tasks outside her expertise, negotiated contracts late into the night, and poured every spare penny into getting her fledgling operation off the ground. Through it all, she discovered strengths she never knew she possessed. Leadership came naturally to her, though she often doubted herself. Creativity flowed freely when necessity demanded solutions. Resilience became her default setting, forged in the fires of adversity. And slowly, steadily, her dream began to take shape. Clients signed on, projects materialized, and revenue trickled in. Each small victory fueled her determination, pushing her closer to the life she envisioned. Yet, amidst the triumphs, there were setbacks. Days when nothing seemed to go right, when emails went unanswered and deals fell through. Moments when loneliness crept in, reminding her of the sacrifices she'd made to pursue this path. Friends and family tried to offer comfort, but their well-meaning words often missed the mark. How could they understand the weight of carrying an entire business on her shoulders? How could they grasp the constant balancing act between hope and despair? Still, she pressed on, drawing strength from the stories of others who had walked similar roads. Entrepreneurs who had risked everything, only to emerge stronger on the other side. Women who had shattered glass ceilings, defying expectations and carving out spaces for themselves in industries dominated by men. Their resilience inspired her, fueling her resolve to keep fighting. Because this wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. About proving to herself and the world that she was capable of greatness. As the months passed, her company grew. Small at first, then larger, gaining momentum with each passing week. Word spread about the woman who had turned rejection into reinvention, who had transformed a devastating blow into a triumphant comeback. Journalists called, eager to hear her story. Conferences invited her to speak, hoping to capture the magic of her journey. And while the attention was flattering, it also served as a reminder of how far she'd come. Once dismissed and discarded, she now stood as a testament to the power of perseverance. But success brought its own challenges. Managing growth required skills she hadn't anticipated, forcing her to adapt yet again. Hiring employees meant relinquishing control, trusting others to carry part of the load. Expanding services meant navigating uncharted territory, taking risks that left her vulnerable. Every decision felt heavier than the last, each choice carrying implications for the future of her company. Yet, she embraced these challenges with the same tenacity that had brought her this far. Failure was no longer an option, it was simply another obstacle to overcome. Despite the demands of running a business, she made time for reflection. Late at night, when the world was quiet and the chaos of the day had settled, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of her accomplishments. Tears often accompanied these moments, not of sadness, but of gratitude. Gratitude for the hardships that had shaped her, for the people who had supported her, for the fire within her that refused to be extinguished. In those quiet hours she found peace, knowing that she had created something meaningful, not just for herself, but for those who believed in her. And yet, the road ahead remained uncertain. Challenges loomed on the horizon, testing her resolve and pushing her to evolve. Would she rise to meet them, or would the pressure finally break her? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, she had already proven that she was capable of extraordinary things. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it with the same courage and determination that had brought her this far. Her calendar filled rapidly with meetings, calls, and deadlines as her company gained traction. Each day brought new challenges, but also opportunities to refine her leadership style. She learned to delegate effectively, entrusting key responsibilities to her growing team while maintaining oversight. Though it was difficult to let go of control, she realized that micromanaging stifled creativity and growth, for both her employees and herself. Instead, she focused on fostering a culture of collaboration and innovation, encouraging her team to take ownership of their roles and contribute ideas openly. One of her earliest hires, Mia, became an invaluable asset. A brilliant strategist with a knack for problem-solving, Mia complemented her strengths perfectly. Together, they formed a dynamic duo, bouncing ideas off each other and tackling obstacles with relentless energy. Their partnership extended beyond professional boundaries, evolving into a deep friendship built on mutual respect and shared ambition. On particularly grueling days, Mia's unwavering optimism kept her grounded, reminding her why they were doing this in the first place. As her client roster expanded, so did her reputation. Word-of-mouth referrals brought in high-profile accounts, including several Fortune 500 companies eager to partner with her firm. These partnerships elevated her status in the industry, opening doors she hadn't dared to dream of. Invitations to exclusive networking events poured in, connecting her with influential figures who could further amplify her reach. Yet, with increased visibility came heightened scrutiny. Critics emerged, questioning whether her rapid ascent was sustainable or merely a flash in the pan. Skeptics whispered about her lack of formal training in entrepreneurship, dismissing her success as luck rather than skill. Their doubts stung, but she refused to let them undermine her confidence. Instead, she used their skepticism as motivation, channeling it into her work. She immersed herself in learning, devouring books on business strategy, attending workshops, and seeking mentorship from seasoned entrepreneurs. Her hunger for knowledge became insatiable, driven by a desire to silence her detractors and solidify her credibility. Slowly but surely, she transformed herself from a self-taught novice into a savvy businesswoman equipped to navigate the complexities of corporate dynamics. Amidst the whirlwind of professional growth, personal sacrifices mounted. Long hours at the office meant missing family gatherings, birthdays, and holidays. Friends drifted away, unable to relate to the intensity of her commitment. Even romantic relationships faltered under the strain, leaving her feeling isolated and disconnected. Loneliness became a constant companion, a shadow lurking in the corners of her otherwise bustling life. Nights spent scrolling through social media feeds filled with snapshots of joyous celebrations only deepened her sense of loss. She wondered if the cost of success was too high, if the trade-offs were worth it. Yet, amid the solitude, she discovered unexpected sources of fulfillment. Helping her team achieve their goals brought immense satisfaction, reinforcing her belief in the ripple effect of empowering others. Witnessing young professionals grow under her guidance reignited her passion for mentorship, reminding her of the mentors who had shaped her own journey. These moments of connection, however fleeting, sustained her during periods of doubt and exhaustion. Her determination caught the attention of major media outlets, leading to feature articles and interviews that showcased her story. Reporters marveled at her resilience, framing her journey as a modern-day rags-to-riches tale. While flattering, the publicity carried its own set of pressures. Public speaking engagements thrust her into the spotlight, demanding eloquence and poise under intense scrutiny. Cameras captured every gesture, every expression, amplifying the weight of each word she spoke. Navigating this newfound fame required a delicate balance between authenticity and polish, vulnerability and professionalism. Despite the accolades, imposter syndrome lingered, whispering insidious doubts in her ear. Could she sustain this level of success? Did she truly deserve the recognition she received? Nights spent lying awake, plagued by insecurities, became commonplace. Yet, whenever self-doubt threatened to consume her, she reminded herself of the hurdles she had already overcome. Each milestone served as a testament to her capabilities, silencing the inner critic that sought to diminish her achievements. The turning point came during a panel discussion at a prestigious tech summit. Surrounded by industry titans, she initially felt out of place, intimidated by their pedigrees and accomplishments. But as the conversation unfolded, she realized her unique perspective added value to the dialogue. Her experiences resonated with the audience, sparking lively debates and thoughtful questions. By the end of the session, Attendees approached her eagerly, expressing admiration for her candor and insight. For the first time, she felt like she belonged, not because she mimicked others, but because she dared to be different. This validation propelled her forward, emboldening her to take bigger risks. She expanded her company's offerings, venturing into unexplored markets and developing innovative solutions tailored to niche audiences. Collaborations with startups and nonprofits broadened her impact, aligning her mission with causes she cared deeply about. Environmental sustainability, gender equality, and access to education became integral components of her brand, reflecting her commitment to creating positive change. With expansion came financial considerations. Securing funding proved challenging, as investors scrutinized her unconventional background and questioned her ability to scale. Rejections piled up, testing her patience and resolve. Yet, she persisted, refining her pitch and honing her storytelling skills until she found allies willing to bet on her vision. Venture capitalists recognized the potential in her disruptive approach, investing not just in her company, but in her as a leader. Their faith bolstered her confidence, enabling her to pursue ambitious projects that pushed boundaries and redefined norms. Success bred ambition, and soon she set her sights on international markets. Global expansion presented a fresh set of challenges, requiring cultural sensitivity and adaptability. Language barriers, regulatory differences, and logistical complexities tested her ingenuity. Yet, she embraced these obstacles as opportunities to learn and grow, immersing herself in foreign cultures and forging partnerships that transcended borders. Her global footprint expanded steadily, earning her accolades as a trailblazer in cross-cultural entrepreneurship. Throughout this meteoric rise, she remained acutely aware of the responsibility that accompanied her influence. Platforms afforded her a voice capable of inspiring change, and she vowed to use it wisely. Advocacy became central to her mission, leveraging her position to champion causes close to her heart. She launched initiatives aimed at empowering women in business, providing resources and mentorship to aspiring female entrepreneurs. Testimonials poured in from beneficiaries whose lives had been transformed by her efforts, reinforcing her belief in the power of collective action. Her philanthropic endeavors extended beyond gender equality, encompassing environmental conservation and educational reform. Partnerships with NGOs and governmental bodies amplified her impact, mobilizing communities and driving systemic change. Recognition followed, with awards celebrating her contributions to society. Acceptance speeches became platforms for advocacy, urging audiences to join her in creating a better world. Her message resonated globally, igniting movements and inspiring individuals to take action. Despite the accolades and achievements, humility guided her interactions. She acknowledged the privilege of her position, recognizing that her success rested on the shoulders of countless unsung heroes. Employees, mentors, friends, and family all played pivotal roles in her journey, shaping her into the leader she had become. Expressions of gratitude punctuated her daily routine, ensuring that those who supported her felt valued and appreciated. Reflection became a cornerstone of her practice, allowing her to pause and assess her progress. Milestones served as checkpoints, prompting introspection and recalibration. What had she learned? Where could she improve? Who had she uplifted along the way? These questions anchored her, preventing complacency and fostering continuous growth. Journals chronicled her evolution, capturing insights and lessons that would guide her future endeavors. As her company flourished, so did her personal development. Mindfulness practices, therapy sessions, and retreats nourished her mental and emotional well-being, equipping her to handle stress and adversity with grace. Physical fitness became a priority, enhancing her stamina and resilience. Hobbies rekindled passions long neglected, offering solace and rejuvenation. Balance, once elusive, gradually materialized, harmonizing her professional and personal spheres. Yet, uncertainty loomed large. Economic fluctuations, geopolitical tensions, and technological advancements posed existential threats to her enterprise. Adaptability became paramount, necessitating agility and foresight. Scenario planning sessions prepared her team for contingencies, ensuring readiness for whatever lay ahead. Innovation remained the bedrock of her strategy, driving experimentation and exploration. Risks, calculated and bold, defined her trajectory, propelling her toward uncharted territories. Her legacy, still unfolding, promised to leave an indelible mark. Stories of triumph and transformation rippled outward, touching lives and inspiring generations. Young entrepreneurs looked to her as a beacon of hope, proof that adversity could be alchemized into achievement. Institutions incorporated her philosophies into curricula, embedding her principles into the fabric of future leaders. Influence transcended timelines, echoing through history as a testament to human potential. In the midst of this odyssey, clarity dawned. Success, she realized, wasn't measured solely by accolades or wealth. True fulfillment stemmed from purpose, from the alignment of values and actions. Impact, not accolades, defined her legacy. Connection, not isolation, fueled her spirit. Growth, not stagnation, characterized her essence. And so she marched onward, undeterred by the unknown, guided by the conviction that her journey was far from over. Whatever awaited her, she would face it with courage, compassion, and unwavering resolve. As the years unfolded, her journey reached a crescendo that surpassed even her wildest dreams. Her company, once a fledgling idea born out of rejection and heartache, had grown into a global powerhouse. It wasn't just successful, it was transformative. Her innovative solutions reshaped industries, her advocacy campaigns inspired movements, and her leadership style became a benchmark for aspiring entrepreneurs worldwide. One crisp autumn morning, she stood on stage at an international conference, addressing thousands of attendees who hung onto her every word. The room buzzed with energy as she recounted her story, not just the victories but also the struggles, the moments of doubt, and the lessons learned along the way. She spoke candidly about being fired by text, about signing that historic deal under her own name, and about how fear had almost paralyzed her before determination took over. "I didn't set out to build an empire," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "I simply wanted to prove, to myself more than anyone else, that I could create something meaningful. What I didn't realize then was that this journey would teach me far more than I ever imagined. It taught me resilience, humility, and the power of believing in yourself when no one else does." The audience erupted into applause, tears glistening in many eyes, including her own. But it wasn't the adoration or recognition that moved her most, it was knowing how far she'd come. From that fateful day when she thought her career was over, she had built not only a thriving business but also a life rich with purpose and connection. Later that evening, back in her hotel suite overlooking the city lights, she allowed herself a rare moment of quiet reflection. Her phone buzzed incessantly with congratulatory messages, but she silenced it, choosing instead to savor the stillness. A framed photo on the desk caught her eye, a picture of her team during their first office holiday party, all smiles and laughter. They were young, inexperienced, and full of hope, much like she had been back then. Seeing their faces reminded her of the people who had made everything possible. Her thoughts drifted to Mia, now her co-founder and closest confidant, whose unwavering support had been instrumental in their shared success. To her family, who had stood by her through long absences and late nights, cheering her on even when they didn't fully understand what she was doing. And to the mentors, clients, and strangers-turned-friends who had offered guidance, opportunities, and encouragement when she needed them most. A knock at the door interrupted her reverie. Opening it, she found Mia standing there with 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "Figured you might need this," Mia said with a grin, stepping inside. They clinked glasses and sat together, reminiscing about the highs and lows of their journey. "Do you remember that night we stayed up until 4 a.m., trying to fix that glitch in the software?" Mia asked, laughing. "Of course I do. We were so stressed, but somehow we pulled it off." She smiled, shaking her head at the memory. "It's funny. Back then, I thought if we could just survive 6 months, we'd be okay. Now look at us." Mia raised her glass again. "To surviving and thriving." "To thriving," she echoed, feeling a deep sense of contentment wash over her. The next day, she returned home to find her house decorated with balloons and banners. Friends, family, and colleagues had gathered to celebrate her achievements, filling the space with warmth and love. Her younger niece ran up to her, clutching a handmade card. "We're so proud of you, Auntie," the little girl exclaimed, throwing her arms around her neck. Tears welled up in her eyes as she hugged the child tightly. For so long, she had equated success with external validation, titles, awards, financial milestones. But in this moment, surrounded by the people who mattered most, she realized true happiness came from connection. From building something bigger than herself and sharing it with others. That night, after the celebration wound down, she sat on her porch, watching the stars twinkle above. Her mind wandered to the future, not with anxiety, but with excitement. There were still challenges ahead, new goals to pursue, and lives to touch. But for the first time in years, she felt at peace. She had proven to herself that she was capable of greatness, not because of external circumstances, but because of the strength within her. As she leaned back in her chair, a soft breeze rustling the leaves around her, she whispered a quiet thank you, to the universe, to fate, to whatever force had guided her through the darkest days. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for certain: she was ready. And so, with a heart full of gratitude and a spirit unyielding, she embraced the next chapter of her life, confident that no matter what happened, she would continue to rise. Because she had already discovered the greatest lesson of all, that the power to shape her destiny lay within her hands, and hers alone.